Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Brainbath Jason.
Brainbath Jason, thanks for joining us again.
I love when all three of us are here.
Yes, it is fun when we get when our schedules sync,
Man,
just like a menstrual cycle, and we get together.
We are all on the
perfect
same cycle.
threesome.
We are.
Okay, he went to threesome,
Of
and
course
we
he
went
did.
with cycles. So,
As is very feminine and masculine of us.
is.
We're playing our roles.
so
Should we shake our Greek?
Yeah, and then speaking of witchcraft, hand him the sack. He clearly.
Here's the kangaroo
that?
sack. What are you doing?
I'm
You
banging
sounded
the-
like a woodpecker. He was banging a crystal on the microphone.
Just omit
shake,
wood.
Shake the sack. Okay, that's enough. Too much. Now you're just playing with it.
Shake it more than twice, you're playing with it.
That's right.
So we have a Patreon listener draw us, and with paint, actually, acrylics, a beautiful piece of art.
So beautiful.
We'll take a picture. It is, she titled it In Harmony, and it's dogwood and pussy willows and green leaves, a snake plant, eucalyptus, dill, and our green crystals. And she put on there what each of those things mean. But here's the best part.
She put dill and pussy willows in the same
Dill
sentence.
and pussy willows.
I love it.
Never underestimate the perseverance and love you exhibit to do what is right and just for your customers, community, colleagues, friends, and family. You, speaking to the three of us, make a difference in the world. May your heart forever give empathy, balance, strength, and healing to those in need. The mom. And that would be my
Your
human mother.
actual
my
birth mother.
actual mother from whom I emerged.
Yes.
And she is an incredible artist.
She is an incredible artist.
So is my dad can draw anything.
No,
my mom
really?
can paint anything. And Anne Marie's pretty talented too. I can color the bubbles in on letters and draw a really graphic stick figure.
I
That's
got
your
that one
talent.
too.
Yeah.
I can't even do that,
That's the
guys.
gene that I have. So I'm going to hand this to you so we can hang it up
Thank
and
you
it fit
so
perfectly.
much, Mama.
Thanks, Mom.
This is absolutely gorgeous.
It is really pretty.
And it fits. We already had a nail in the studio.
She did. She
ready
hung it
for
right up and I said, you already had a nail there?
Yes, because 2
Like
days
she
ago,
knew.
well, you know, clairvoyant.
Did you know I was bringing you art today from Mom? Did you feel
Well,
something
what's interesting
necessary
is-
for that nail to be there?
2 days ago, I was looking at that nail and saying, oh, well, it's time to bring me something for that. And here we are.
Here we are. The world
Yes.
has speaketh.
It sure has.
And you would have
Ask
had it
and the universe will provide.
last Monday, but I decided to be out for like 2 days from work.
I know.
One of my terrible migraines. So.
We recorded without you.
You did, and I
I'm
listened
so
to him
sorry.
today.
Did you?
It is armed robbery.
I'm trying to remember. Now I forget what the question
This is
was.
a general audience episode,
Was
so
it a
if you
bonus?
guys want to hear, you'll have to listen to a bonus. But Jason had an inquiry as to armed robbery when all they got was garbage donuts.
Right, like if they,
Wanted to know if
Didn't I say it was
you
armed
said
robbery?
Judge
You
Meg would
did.
say it was armed robbery, and
I
it
just
was in fact. It doesn't
feel like
have
it's a
to.
good defense because they
doesn't-
didn't actually steal anything valuable.
It doesn't matter when it's the armed robbery piece.
So
Now,
if it's not yours, you're not entitled to it.
this is really the premise of American common law. So, but we're leaving America
But if I
today,
take
right?
someone's garbage,
are we?
Are we?
Oh, I didn't realize. Is today the day?
No, is Anne Green the?
what's happening?
We're all lost. I got lost. Isn't Anne Green's
Really?
not a U.S. case?
It's not. I will.
So take us away from America and back into to olden times.
I saw something was happening in the news where all of a sudden we weren't, America.
Oh,
Who
you
the
thought
fuck
we
knows?
changed
I
the
don't-
name of our country
If we,
today.
Would it
if we
shock
can,
you?
No,
not at all.
I already changed it on Google. It's the United States of Megan.
Oh, perfect.
I'm feeling very narcissistic today. It just goes with the political climate.
It does. We left the United States of America. Now we're in the United States of Megan. But do you like how I just
It's warm here.
went with the wave? I'm like, yeah. Okay. Are we no longer America today? Is that what we doing?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I literally
That's sad.
for
Like your response to what you thought was happening is actually sad.
I know.
for our case.
We've become complacent.
Listen,
maybe.
we're not going to get into political
Never.
diatribe.
Unless
Not
we're
today.
making fun of something. Because, I actually hate all politics.
We make
but
fun of ourselves, and the general public doesn't have an issue making fun of most of us. So
it's so true.
you karmically get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
You karmically get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Please let me quote that on my spiritual
You can, but you
website
have to quote
someday.
my kids' preschool teacher because that's what they learned at Karen. No, not Karen Jenkins. Step by Step Preschool.
That's where my kids went.
Yeah, before they retired.
Okay.
Those two ladies, whom we both know very well, then
Yes.
you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
Well,
and
yes.
I have taken that as a life lesson. I don't
get
know.
what
If
you
I-
get.
My
and you
ex-mother-in-law
don't
used
throw
to
a
say that to me all the
karmic
time.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah.
Is
And
that-
it happened for you too.
I'm sorry, your ex-mother-in-law, was this in speaking about her daughter?
I think so.
Okay,
In hindsight, yes.
I wondered.
And Megan's
It's very
statement works
possible.
too. You get what you get and you don't throw a karmic fit.
I'm going to figure out a way to work that into your vows
Please don't.
Oh,
to Nancy.
Let's not.
So,
Let's not.
everybody, we're doing a throwback today. Okay. So, if you've been with us for a really long time, like this whole going on, we're in our 5th year of recording content. Okay. So,
Well,
if
Charnell is. Some of us
yes.
are newer.
That's right. Yes, and this is a throwback to an oldie but a goodie from 2021 case that we covered that was just an absolute crazy case that this is what the world was really like, and I thought that it was time to share it, especially with Brain Bath Jason. So this is a redo, admittedly. And it's just because, sometimes we do that as we move on and transition from the old to the new with the podcast hosts here. And this was one of my favorite cases that we ever did.
I
And
wasn't
so
on then.
I know.
I love this case.
I'm super happy to do it with my two besties here. And here we go. This is the Anne Green case. And I know we got a lot of feedback. I know so many of you diehards really loved this, and hopefully now you love it with the perspective of Megan and Brain Bath Jason as well. So let's talk about Anne Green. She was born in 1628 in Steeple Barton, Oxfordshire. Not Oxfordshire.
That's a lot. That was a mouthful.
Steeple Barton, Oxfordshire.
Where's that?
Well,
England.
it is not in America of Megan.
Wales.
I can tell you.
Wales. You girls from Ireland? Wales. You Wales from
Wales
Ireland?
from Ireland. It's a great joke.
Sorry.
I love that joke.
Sorry.
In her early adulthood, she worked as a scullery maid in the house of Sir Thomas Reed, a justice of the peace who lived in nearby Duns 2.
So she
Not
was
Duns, is there a Duns 1?
I don't know.
cleaning the skull of the
Tew-
judge.
Not TWO, TEW, Tew.
Tew.
Yes, Duns 2.
Duns Tew.
So, like any other scully maid of the 1600s, she was worked hard, and she herself said that when she was a 22-year-old servant, she was often solicited by fair promises and other enticements.
Yes.
Yes.
Bone,
Those-
bone, 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 bone.
Those justices of the peace back then, they didn't have
Yeah.
codes of ethics.
Not only by...
And if they did, scullery maids were exempt. You could have your way with them.
well,
What's
and
a scully? I mean, can we
What's a scullery? Cleaning lady.
Yeah, it's a
Housekeeper.
I'm gonna
It's your
start over.
modern
Have
day.
we established what a scully maid is?
Yes. Scullery.
Scullery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a modern day housekeeper
Okay.
or castle keeper.
And
or-
sometimes everything. They'd also cook.
absolutely.
I mean, it was cooking and cleaning and just everything.
Well, I mentioned she was overworked, right?
Yeah.
So let's assume she did it all. But it wasn't so much Sir Thomas Reed that was making these enticements to her. It was his entitled little asshole grandson.
Oh.
Sir Thomas's grandson, who was, of course, named Joffrey Reed.
Oh boy.
Because why wouldn't he be?
Game of Thrones, man.
Oh, yeah. You're going to feel some huge
The most
Game
hated,
of Thrones
the most hated
throwback.
child to come out of cinema.
Yep. At this point in time, Joffrey was 16, 17 years old, and he was seducing Miss Anne Green. Seducing, raping. The jury is still out on that, literally.
I'm hearing
Literally.
Mrs. Robinson play in the background here.
So I did see several sources that said that she was raped. Other sources said that it was consensual. I want to point out it's the 1600s. How the fuck do we know, people?
Wow. I think anytime now you have a person in a position of power exercising authority,
Absolutely.
define consent
Well,
there.
that's just it. I
Consent
think-
saying yes. Well, that's why you can't consent in certain situations. When a person's in a position of power over you,
Right.
say you're a prisoner.
Yeah.
You know, you can't have a consensual relationship with a prison guard, okay?
No.
They're committing a felony. Yeah, it's true.
And-
you can feel a certain way about it, Jason.
No,
Feel your
no,
feels,
I'm-
Jason.
But
Doesn't
you
make it
can't
any
have-
more.
I'm
You
just
can't
thinking of the
consent.
1600s and
yeah?
what the other issues they may have had.
Just remembering your
Like,
time in the
right,
1600s,
like
how different
back
it
when
was
I
then.
was then.
Right.
Back when I was then.
Yeah, out there.
Back
then.
when I was then.
That is my favorite. That needs to be on a t-shirt.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, I just elbowed the window for no reason. Sorry about that.
This is the
And
same
like a
woman that yells at
16-year-old
us.
boy is like, he's a man.
Oh, he is a man.
Oh,
in
100%.
1600, he's been a man.
He is going off and is ready to get married, and yeah.
And Anne is 22, so he's into older chicks,
Nice.
you know? Nice. But I agree with Megan. He's the grandson of Sir Thomas, of this homeowner, if we can call it that, castle owner. He is the lord of the grounds.
And she's doing what
Okay.
he asks.
And she's right. So whether it's consensual or not, as is typical, a sperm found an egg and life was born.
Sure, okay.
Okay. Cells divided. It was a whole scientific situation up in that uterus.
She found herself with child.
She
They probably
was.
didn't have lambskin back then.
She was with child.
They may have.
But we're talking
I'm
like
sure it
the
worked really well.
actual, Like they
But
literally
here's-
skinned
I
a
know
lamb.
they did.
Here's the thing, though. Anne didn't know that she was with child until said child was coming out of her body.
Oh.
So here she is.
Jason's shaking his head.
If you can picture this, here she is as a Scully maid. Okay, scullery maid.
It is.
Scully.
It's Scullery.
Well, I left out the R.
Well, I like Scully. I think it's a great
It's
short
Scully.
form.
Yo ho! It just
Yo
sounded
ho,
like a.
pirate's- We're going to say Scully the rest of the episode,
Yeah.
knowing that it's wrong because we like it.
And please don't comment on it because it's our show.
Oh, I want
That's what we want to do.
I think you should comment on
I'll
it
probably hide it.
at Charnell.
If you're an asshole in the comments, I hide them. Because you know what that means? You can't see that I hit it, and no one else can see that you said it. It's fucking perfect.
That's a bummer because I really like to see those because I love.
Oh, you can still see what we hit
good.
because you're logged in as us. Yeah. But if you're a dick, I'm going to be a dick right back, except you don't realize that no one else can see it but us.
Welcome to Crime Curious, where we're petty AF.
We're not the only podcasters that do that. I actually really appreciate Instagram for having that insight and building that into their platform.
Thank you.
It helps stop the bullying.
So can we talk more about the pirate hooker?
We can. Oh, she's not a hooker.
We like Anne.
Yeah, well, Anne's, Anne's
I like Anne.
fantastic. Yes, you're catching the wrong vibe here. This is not Anne's fault. Okay, she dropped an egg. Sperm found it, whether it was consensual or not. She doesn't realize she's pregnant. But if you can picture this, she is stirring a vat of malt, which is no easy task.
Is she making beer?
It's not a tiny pot. She is stirring a gigantic, like, not a little
Vat.
pot
A
on the stove. It's a
cauldron.
vat. It's an entire vat. It is.
Cauldron.
It is
Oh,
kind
it's
of like
bigger.
a
I
cauldron,
think
but
it's bigger.
it's
It
gigantic. And here she's got this huge, what I can only assume
Or-
is a wooden spoon. Yes.
Yeah.
And she's stirring this gigantic vat of malt.
Was this before or after she had the baby?
During.
This is when she realized this is what puts her into labor, Jay. Yep. To make matters worse, she does not realize that she's going into labor because she does not know she's pregnant. Okay. So she excuses herself and she goes into what was known as the House of Office, which is what we would call an outhouse. Some call it a lavatory or privy, but you get the picture, everyone. She went to go give the miracle of childbirth in the shitter.
Yes.
Not knowing, she thought she had to take a shit.
That happens still
So
today.
it absolutely does. Yes.
We can't be judgmental of, 1600s Anne when it happens to educated women
for sure.
in 2020 something.
Well, to be fair though, it really does feel like you have to take a poop. And so it just, I mean, there's,
Not necessarily.
there's cramps
the
and all
worst
that.
cramps in the entire world.
Yeah, but you have to, she's only, and I haven't told you this yet, but she's only about 17 weeks along.
Oh.
So this is not a full-term baby.
She's basically miscarrying.
Yeah, she is. And this, yes. And this is why she couldn't recognize that she was in labor, because it just wasn't as intense as a full-term baby.
I get it.
Which is why she thought she had to go poop-poops. So anyway, unfortunately.
This is how she refers to the dogs, by the way. You've heard it. Yeah, we've all heard it.
That is true. I did just.
We know.
I channeled my mama dog voice there,
mom-dog.
didn't I? Yeah. Oh. Anyway, unfortunately, this little baby boy was significantly premature, of course, because she's only 17 weeks along.
Yeah.
And it was stillborn. So she goes into the privy and at some point figures out what's really happening, okay? And instead of going number 2, she gives birth to a stillborn baby boy and panics. She does not know what to do with the child. So in response to her panic, she buries him near a cesspit, which is a waste pit, essentially. Before you get all modern day judgmental on her, let's take a historical.
I'm not judging. There's no dumpsters back then. She had to do something with it.
Oh, God.
Wow. This is a general audience episode.
From the 1600s, we will let that pass.
Well,
but
I mean, what he's making is a modern day comparison of what that would look like today.
I'm not suggesting that's a good idea or
No.
best practice.
No.
I'm
But
just
was
saying
she-
it's the equivalence of.
It is because she buried him near a cesspit.
But is she in a position to be able to ask for help?
No.
So explain the
Let's
time frame.
Take a historical feelings inventory. Okay.
Walk with me to the 1600s in England.
There was all kinds of feminism back then in England in the 1600s. No?
Yeah. Yes, there. Yeah.
No.
The answer. You're right. Yes. No, there's not.
No, They were feminists. They usually were hanged or stoned or
called witches.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how feminism worked in the 1600s.
In this time, single women were basically
and also in 2025.
Right.
Right. By the way,
I can't even wrap my head around that. That's
really,
so weird.
Really not so different. In this time, single women were basically considered the devil, sent to tempt man and become pregnant while single, because that's the sin of all sins. Don't you know?
Not the person nailing the single person.
Never. Why would we blame
a man?
Why would we ever blame the apparatus that fired off the shots? You know,
you can't be responsible for these things, son.
They have a mind of their own, Megan. Can't you understand that?
I don't know how many times you just walk by a man and it's out.
It's just out. It can't
trying to impregnate everything that walks by it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally not trying to impregnate anything.
Maybe not.
They were then.
Not a 17-year-old.
When I was then.
Definitely was. Even
when you were then?
When I was then, we were not trying to impregnate.
You weren't impregnating anybody when you were 17.
No.
This is true.
I don't think you were going to be okay.
Yeah, no, it's safe.
There was no risk of you having a child out of wedlock.
Anyway, despite the fact that Jason was a very religious young man, not willing to spread his seed.
Right.
Yep, that's
You're welcome.
That is what it all was.
Best liar ever.
As what you should know too, though, in the 1600s, it's also illegal. What she did was illegal.
Which part?
Getting pregnant?
The sex, the pregnancy, the birth.
All of it.
The
She's
stillborn,
single.
the burying.
She's not married. It's actually against the law here, people.
It was probably English common
she's
law.
Gonna panic.
Adultery.
Yeah.
And she could, be in huge trouble for that.
All right. Here's what's even worse. If the child died when you're an unmarried woman, the woman was automatically accused of murder because they would not accept that there might be a medical reason that the child died. So the woman's character was already tarnished because she was an unwed mother, right? So she, of course, could commit murder.
Right.
That's the patriarchy for you. If there is no such thing as a stillborn baby, you murdered this child because you're ashamed of the fact that you're also an illegal little temptress,
And your body evacuated it at 17 weeks, so your own body murdered it.
Yeah, you are a murderer. You have committed not only sin, but you've broken the law. These are all the times that she's raised in and things going through her. Of course she panicked, and of course she buried the baby and tried to hide this.
Does anybody have concern for science? Just think about this. In the 1600s, we already had well-established scientists who could understand the universe and the solar system and how things worked. And we were understanding the laws of physics and gravity. And we didn't know how the female body worked.
Well, why would we care about females? They're just here to bore our children.
I'm just saying. You're right.
That's
Keep it in the perspective then.
Right.
When people don't have any worth because of their sex or their race or their gender identity, we dehumanize them to the point that we make ourselves look stupid. Those idiots at that point in time should have been advanced enough to know how a human body works and what a stillborn baby was. And if she was married and that same baby would have been stillborn, it would have been a tragedy, right?
Sure
She
would
wouldn't have been charged, and they
Right.
would have mourned the loss of a child, and they could have had a funeral.
Right, because she was of good moral fiber if she got married and had a baby. So, of course,
Good moral fiber. I should eat more of that. Do
good
you?
moral fiber.
Where do you buy yours?
Is that a thing?
Do they put
Yeah.
that in?
If that were a thing,
Walmart.
is it too late
No.
to start
We can go
that
buy
diet?
some good moral fiber.
It's just anyway, guys. You talk about your Raisin Bran later,
Okay.
but
All brand.
oh, that too.
I don't.
You don't eat any
cereal?
of those
I don't
things.
need any of that.
No.
It's just, it's a natural process.
Excellent. This is good to know.
Back to Anne and her illegal proceedings, and less about your bowel movement regularity.
I'm just waiting for you to continue.
Okay.
I don't
Anyway.
need to discuss my BMs any more than usual.
So anyway, let's also remember that birth control was not exactly medically thriving at this time, nor were living conditions, or morals for that part, considering rape was just a man's right. If he wanted you, he could have you. So this is everything that Anne is dealing with. She's scared shitless, literally, and she buries her stillborn son. Well, of course, the justice of the peace house, there's always someone watching, like some real Game of Thrones shit, like we talked about earlier. And a little bird tattles on her to Sir Thomas Reed.
We're going to call that person Littlefinger.
Littlefinger, yes, that saw her burying
Varys.
something.
Who's the fat bald guy?
Varys.
Yeah.
Now, the good sir did hear her pleas that the child was stillborn, and any idiot with a brain could see that the child was entirely too small to have lived outside the womb. But here's the issue, because of course Littlefinger had to go, unbury the child and prove, oh hey, I saw her doing that, burying this.
And then she couldn't prove that the child wasn't already passed.
Well, here's the thing: she was entirely too honest with her account of what happens, which means this is the first that Sir Thomas is learning that one of his grandsons had an affinity for his maid. And that just won't do now, will it? Which tells me, I imagine Sir Thomas himself probably also had an affinity for 22-year-old little Anne Green.
Oh, I feel like they probably all did, this poor kid.
Mm-hmm. Sir Thomas charged her under what was known as the Infanticide Act, although I did find another source that said that she was prosecuted under the Concealment of Birth of Bastards Act of 1624, which I just want you to know.
Back.
I just wanted you to know it's a thing. The Concealment of the Birth of Bastards. And now, ladies, when
This
you
really
meet,
sounds like a Game of Thrones episode.
it does.
Battle of the Bastards.
But you guys, ladies, when you meet a jerk, just ask him, were you born under the concealment of the birth of bastards? Because it seems like you should come with a warning.
Yeah.
But in this act of
Business cards.
1620, born under the concealment of the birth of bastards.
Act.
Talk to me at your own risk. At the Act of 1624, under which there was a legal presumption that a woman who concealed the death of her illegitimate child had murdered it. That's what the act stated, you guys.
Okay.
If you had a stillborn while you were not married, then you had to have murdered it. Okay?
Again,
A whole
they
law,
can
a whole
track
law.
the universe by the stars,
Yes.
Yep.
but they're not recognizing the fact that
And my barristers, fellow barristers from the 1600s, practicers of law and justice, created laws and acts with very little to zero knowledge of the biology or the science.
Right.
I mean,
because it fit their
astounding.
social structure. They didn't want people marrying or not getting married and having babies. It fit all of it, you guys. They tailored it to what they wanted.
We
which
still
we
do
do.
that.
Yes,
we still make laws to
exactly.
fit our social structure.
Yeah. All right. So the Infanticide Act made it illegal for an unmarried woman to conceal the birth of a child, and it put her under immediate suspicion of murder if the child died during birth or soon after.
Clearly, this happened.
It did.
So she's going to be charged.
Marina Leslie, a professor of English at Northeastern University, said, quote, "Public attitudes toward unmarried mothers for much of the 17th century were neither generous nor forgiving, and the Infanticide Act of 1624, under which she was convicted, meaning Anne, illustrated an increase in the concern of the public that infanticide was a rising epidemic," end quote. So she's pointing out here that just having a public act about it gave society an impression that it was happening every day, that these babies are being murdered, that illegitimate children are being born everywhere, when in truth, it wasn't, okay? But having an act, and I mean, I didn't even consider that until I saw her quote, like, oh yeah, when we make laws about things, it does kind of exaggerate them a bit, doesn't it? Unmarried mothers were presumed guilty unless they could provide a witness that the child died at birth or of natural causes to prove their innocence. So Marina Leslie goes on to expound that the act was a measure to discourage immorality. Excuse me.
We want
not immortality.
That's vampirism. We want to discourage that.
Immorality, especially amongst servants. Single women in service were regarded as dangerously mobile, untethered from family supervision, and to some degree financially independent, and as such, already suspect in exceeding and evading the social and legal codes regulating female decorum. Can you imagine? We're fucking rogue, Megan.
I can imagine.
We are rogue.
Well, I am feral. And these feral scullery maids, you know, innocent women probably between the ages of 16 and 30, because you can't have them much past that. They're not going to look good enough to clean your house.
No.
Apparently.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
I mean, they're just,
Jason's like, yeah. I mean, if I was going to hire a maid, she'd have to be under 30. Yeah.
It was the creation of the perfect victim pool.
Yes.
With those laws on the book, with those particular professions for our young ladies who unfortunately didn't grow up in homes of wealth so that they had to go serve others. They were just ripe for the pickings.
Mm-hmm. The next time I get in my car, like tonight, driving away from the studio, all I'm going to think is how dangerously mobile and untethered from family supervision I am. Except that's not true.
Mobile.
My damn
So
husband.
you're not anymore.
And my freaking kids all have my location on their phone. I can't go anywhere without getting I got a text a couple Saturday nights ago, and my son was like, "Ma'am, don't you think it's time for you to be in bed?" Because I was out till 1 in the morning at a friend's house. That's kind of funny. I was like, "Oh, is this what it's like when I text you?" He's like, yes, it is. And I thought it would be funny. But truly, I'm not as untethered from family supervision, I suppose, with the invention of GPS. But we are still very dangerously mobile. Yes. We could get on the streets and speak our mind. Oh my God. Could you imagine?
We have a microphone for that.
We do. So regardless of what act it was named, her trial begins in the beginning of December 1650. And the results were the same for everyone who was tried under acts like these. She was found guilty, regardless of the lack of evidence, that she had murdered her child, and she was sentenced to death by gallows.
So there was not one person willing to testify that a 17-week-old in gestation can survive, because they really can't now.
Right.
So the fact that you're in the 1600s where there is little access to medical care, like no one to testify to this.
Nope, not this time. But her next trial we do. Give it a second. You're in for a wild ride, Jason. You have no idea. You're just thinking this is going by a regular case. You just wait, my friend.
This feral scullery maid has just really started to dig her way into my heart. Mm-hmm. I don't like what she did. Faves. No one who's a mom is going to like that she buried her stillborn, but listen, what was she supposed to do?
I totally understand why she
lived in rock hut, like stone huts.
Yeah,
like,
she wasn't going to be able to go to the hospital or call a friend or ask for help or go to the guy that impregnated her and say, look, this is our child.
Like Merlin in the next castle over and be like, hey.
Yeah, none of what she did actually bothers me even a little bit, given the context of the times.
Correct.
Truly.
I think that's where I was going with my statement.
Yeah, like it breaks your heart. Well, and got to remember, she found out she was pregnant at the same time that she also gave birth. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to process there. Like, I'm not sure that she even grieved because she really didn't even know. Like, that had to have been a surreal moment. One minute you think you're going to the bathroom, and the next you've had a baby.
Right. I'm just saying
that's crazy.
That happens still today.
It sure does.
The difference is we don't live in a time frame where you're going to be thrown into the gallows, the Crimes Against Bastards Act or whatever it is.
The concealment of the Bastards Act.
Correct. In fact, quite the opposite. We make you all kinds of mechanisms so that you can safely deliver a newborn and leave it someplace if you don't want to take care of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, let me tell you, though, about 1650. These people did not play because her trial was in December of 1650 and her hanging took place December 14th, 1650.
Oh, some bitch. You know,
I mean, they walked out those doors.
You know what shortens an appellate process? A hanging.
A hanging. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Like, I'm not even sure that after she was found guilty that she got a last meal. I think the gallows were just waiting. Like many other hangings at the time, it did not proceed well. Math was not used to calculate the height and weight. And although hanging...
Simple math.
Yeah. Although hanging was the most popular method of execution over beheading due to the common and easy to find materials needed and the lack of bloody cleanup, of course.
I also feel like you might be less inclined to behead a woman and to hang them. I just feel like beheading's more masculine. Am I wrong?
Well, it's just in this case, they're like, this is just cleaner and easier.
They had a dude for that.
Yeah.
Like, and that was his job.
Right. I know.
So I'm guessing whomever they picked for that job, they weren't quite there. So like, hey.
No,
like,
they definitely
he was just cutting off heads. He didn't give a shit.
Right. Yeah. So there was some disassociation, I'm sure.
Anna's sentenced to be hanged.
She is, guys. She's going to the gallows to be hanged. But you got to know, hanging at this time was not exactly efficient or humane. So it wasn't until 1872 that William Marwood, by the way, fun fact, introduced the concept of an accurately calculated drop for the execution. And the first prisoner to have experienced this was Frederick Horry.
I'm so glad. I bet he was so happy to donate his services to that
to see if this worked.
And exact science.
And it scientifically worked out by way of giving Mr. Frederick Horry a humane death. And this concept had been developed by doctors in Ireland, and it was used there until the mid-1850s. So they
built this trap door, and they're like, listen, you're going to be famous.
Yep.
The guy's like, sweet.
As soon as I kick this chair out from under you, you are in the record books, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they started developing it in the mid-1850s and then put it into actual practice in 1872. And Frederick Horry was like, success! The math works!
Is Anne Green a small human?
Anne Green is a small human, yeah. This was not the case for Anne, okay? This is still this is 1650, guys. So she knows what is about to take place. She asks all of her family and friends to immediately ensure that she would die quickly. And how they do that is she instructed them to hang from her body to force the rope tighter and do whatever they needed so that she didn't suffer. Common practice of the time.
So sad.
Absolutely horrific. All right. This is a quote about her from a pamphlet that documented her hanging. Quote, she was turned off the ladder, hanging by the neck, for the space of almost half an hour. Some of her friends in the meantime were thumping her on the breast with a musket, others hanging with all their weight upon her legs, sometimes lifting her up and then pulling her down again with a sudden jerk, whereby the sooner to dispatch her out of her pain. The undersheriff, fearing that they would break the rope, forbade them from doing it any longer, end quote. So the sheriff was like, hey, stop that, lifting her up and hanging.
Those ropes aren't cheap.
Right, exactly.
We're going to use this with somebody else.
Yeah, we've got 5 more hangings today. That rope's got to last. So he stopped them from doing that. So then they resorted to hitting her with musket, just trying to do anything that they can to put her out of her misery. Eventually, Anne Green expired and was cut down. She was placed in a coffin and delivered to William Petty, a surgeon and anatomical researcher at Oxford. And Anne's body was to be dissected for medical science. This, however, did not happen, as the surgeon realized that Anne was still breathing, although faintly. Therefore, the surgeon...
It's really hard to do an autopsy on a live human.
Sure is. Kind of defeats
Death
the purpose.
Is a requirement
It
for
is.
the host.
That's the baseline
I'm
requirement.
glad that the medical examiner had ethics here.
Well,
Did he though?
yes.
He didn't
because
kill
him
her.
and another colleague of his rush in and they go to revive her. They begin to revive her. The other colleague was Thomas Willis. And it was reported that this was going to be his first dissection, by the way.
Oh, that'll turn you off from the field.
Yes, it was going to be his.
My first autopsy ever. The person woke up, grabbed the knife, and said, "I don't fucking think so."
And he also was reported to be the one to actually stop the doctor and William Petty, and say, "I think she's still breathing."
Yeah.
So
Otherwise, cutting into her would have been a quick realization when blood starts spilling out.
Right. Going to be a problem. So Petty and Willis sought the help of their other Oxford colleagues, Ralph Bathurst and Henry Clerk. First, they're trying to revive her. I just want you to picture this, y'all.
I am.
They're trying to
And it's-
revive her. First, they poured hot and cordial spirits into her mouth, causing her to cough.
Alcohol.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would wake
Warm
you up.
alcohol.
So men's thought process, step 1.
Give her a drink.
Let's get her drunk.
Whiskey.
Okay, she's still alive. Let's get her drunk.
Nothing makes them friskier than whiskey.
Then
Pour some warm mead down
her throat.
They're not Vikings, Jason.
Then they opened her stiffened, bent fingers and had bystanders rub her limbs for about a quarter of an hour. So next, we rub her, right? Spirits and a rub.
Science.
For science.
Spirits and a rub down.
Rub her for science.
Yep. More spirits were then administered. So we've got spirits, a rub down, more spirits.
Why does this sound like a Saturday?
I was just gonna. This
it's
is what
a-
we did last night.
Really about to.
right.
Hold on. And then a feather was used to tickle her throat. Oh, yeah.
That
Now
pissed
we've
me
got
off.
the
I would
feather.
wake up and grab that feather and beat you with the feather. Because I don't like that. I don't like just...
Gentle touches like that.
No, do you like that?
No,
she-
she needs
she
whips
needs
and
it rough.
chains.
That fuck-
She needs it much more firm.
I
No.
played the fifth.
If she was Anne in this situation, she would have been like, a feather. Is that all you got?
Yeah. I don't... Get
I
your fucking
I
feather.
preferred the rope.
You know
Spirits-
it's probably attached
spirits,
to a chicken.
Rub down, spirits,
Feather.
feather.
On the throat of all the fucking most annoying places. Now listen, she did open her eyes briefly at this, and I would
Why don't
too.
they
S&M
just- why don't they just-
resuscitation.
Why don't they just like flicker in the ear? Like, you good?
Wake up,
Right.
wake up,
Maybe that's a part of the rub down.
When
I
my
don't
friends
know.
thought I was dead, they weren't this nice.
You know, some dude in there.
Sternal rub.
Yeah. Some dude in there was like, hold on, just let me just rub my dry humper ass. It annoys my wife in the morning. That'll wake her up.
No, she'll just play that longer.
When my wife plays dead, that's what I do.
Oh my God.
So when they see that
Is
her
this
eyes
working?
open, yeah.
Was
when
it the feather?
When her
I
eyes
knew it.
her eyes opened, then they decide, well, let's put some leeches on her and do some bloodletting.
Oh,
There
of
you
course.
go. I was waiting for the leeches to come into play.
Yeah, I think
I'm
the problem
the least
might be
offended by the leeches. That's the most medically appropriate thing they've done so far.
at the time, right? But they're like, you know what? This is bad blood. You know, the blood we, tried to kill her with. let's just leach this out
Yeah,
so
for
she
sure.
can make new blood.
You can leach a demon out, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
That science makes just as much sense of all the other science we've heard so far this episode.
Now, bloodletting, whether by a physician or by leeches, because a physician could do it too, was based on an ancient system of medicine in which blood and other bodily fluids were regarded as humors that had to remain in proper balance to maintain health. Now, it is claimed to have been the most common medical practice performed by surgeons from antiquity until the late 19th century, a span over 2,000 years.
There are some
So-
things that bloodletting or removal of or recirculating it through oxygenation, it's a legit science. They actually had a scientific basis for that. Again, you've just told me the most scientifically relevant thing that
but
I've
it's-
heard.
But they used it like a Band-Aid. It's not for everything, but the problem is they
Charnell,
kept using it for
They
everything.
used a feather on her, okay?
It
A
was
feather
it was
isn't a
last
surgical,
resort.
it's not a medical
That
instrument.
opened her damn eyes now, didn't
I'm
it?
telling you this. The next time I go to have a surgical procedure, I'm going to ask the doctor where the feathers are. Okay? First,
I don't think that's a good idea.
why not, Jason?
They'll kick you out.
No, they'll think she's high.
I'm under sedation, honey. I mean, I don't. What would you do if you were a surgeon and some lady looked up at you and goes, "Where are the feathers, doctor?"
I'd wait until she was completely out.
No, you would not.
Now, hold on. We're keeping track here. First we have spirits, rubbing,
Rub down.
spirits, a feather, leeches.
Leeches. Okay.
Now, they decide they need to try to raise her body temperature because, they just let out all of her blood with the leeches. So
Hot
now
tub.
she's cold. If only.
No.
If only. Here's the next process of the man.
You gonna burn her?
She was placed in a well-warmed bed with soothing oils, spirits on her head, neck, and soles of her feet, while other women lie in her bed and continue to gently rub her.
Lesbian orgy.
These guys are geniuses.
Lesbian orgy. Jason.
Of course,
This is
that's
science,
what they
Megan.
did.
This is
Fucking science.
Yeah, man science right here.
These,
I love
these
it.
Brits got something going on.
Did they-
They
did they have
thought
to?
I was being ridiculous when I suggested that a dude in there was probably like, well, let me just put my boner into her ass. That'll wake her. No, instead they were like, better idea. Let's get other women in bed
those
with
guys
her.
are like, one guy's in the back. He's like, I got an idea.
Hold on.
Hear me out, guys.
Hey, you.
Call these
Gandhi.
other girls from
Come
the back
here.
room.
I need you to do something for science.
Trying to
For
revive
science.
this woman.
I'm going to need
Could
you to crawl in
guys-
bed with her.
Yeah, and just rub all over her.
Yeah. In the meantime,
We're
they're-
just going to sit back and observe.
Yes.
my God.
For
they,
science.
They might have made the first porno.
They did.
Oh, yeah, this is 1650s
Sure,
porn.
I'm sure one guy was drawing it.
First of all, pornography's been around since Greek times, so I ruined my own statement. But
But again,
they're all in bed and they're just rubbing her. Again, a little bit of scientific basis, right? Like a small infant. You raise pigs. You're a pig farmer.
there's body heat.
Body heat. You
didn't-
warm up the little piglet.
I don't know.
Smack him a few times. Why didn't they spank her?
You didn't let me finish.
I would have started with smacking her.
You would have
honestly.
started with
Like,
the
she awake,
spanking?
just smack her.
She'd been through enough. Now she's got to go through this. Listen, you have warm bed? Okay. Soothing oils?
Yes.
Okay. You're putting spirits on my head, neck, and the soles of my feet? Sure. I don't care where the booze goes. Whatever.
Rubbed down by women?
Then,
Check.
Then you placed a heating plaster onto my chest. Okay. All right. So they're just trying to warm her up. It's like a heating pad.
They're
It's a heating
applying
pad.
some type
All right.
of thing to her breast.
Okay. So I'm like, all right. Then they administered an enema and asked the other ladies to join into the bed to rub her down. That's where you lose me. That's where things have gone awry.
Well, an
I'm
enema is the
feeling
cure for
safe-
a lot of things.
I'm feeling safe with essential oils and a heating pad on my chest.
Sodomy
But
draws the line
The
for you?
minute that you go towards my asshole with some medieval
Well,
enema,
it'd wake me up.
no.
And then after the enema, these other people agreed to lay down next to her.
Yes, lay
I
in
think they're
bed.
still laying with her the whole time.
Other women had to lie in bed with her and gently rub her. Now, at this point in time,
Hang me.
and
Let's do this shit.
You're okay with the
Like,
enema?
what kind of death would you like? No, hang me. Just in case.
I'm just
Just in case it doesn't work.
I want
know
that
what comes
treatment.
next.
I want that treatment.
Beheading, shooting. No, hang me. Trust me. I know what I'm talking about.
It could work
Yeah.
out
I heard this one story.
Jason's up at the pearly gates going, "Where was my fucking feather?"
for
right?
sure.
I want my rub down.
No feather, no spirits, no women, no enema. I got fucking robbed.
There weren't multiple ladies gently rubbing me in my deathbed. I don't understand. Administering an enema. They were very gentle with those essential oils.
My fat ass will snap that in my own neck.
That's because you went to Protestant heaven and she was in witch heaven. Witch heaven is way more fun.
So much fun.
There's naked ladies. They're rubbing you. They're putting things in your orifices and warming your body.
Just so you know.
They give you whiskey and oil.
While just a bunch of men stood around like science.
Watching.
This is science.
Actually, it does sound a lot like grown up Catholic.
Yeah. Not too far off.
Oh my God.
Now
we have to move on now.
You'll be happy to know that after, I'm not sure which part of that, if it was the enema, if it was the rubbing, maybe it was the spirits on the soles of her feet. Either way, she begins recovering really quickly. And within 12 hours, she's speaking. 14 hours, she was eating solid food. And after 4 days, she is right as rain, really. But within a month, she had fully recovered. Aside from amnesia about the time surrounding her execution.
Brain damage?
Yes, that's what we mean.
Asphyxiation?
That's
Come
what we
on,
mean.
people.
It's brain damage.
Well, remember, science was hard, and let's not be cognizant of the fact that we cut off her air and blood supply and that it might have affected the most, important of organs.
For a long time. Remember, she hanged for over half an hour.
Over half an hour, right.
Yeah.
But obviously their medical process worked.
Something about
Is that what you're taking from this?
Yes. Trying to stay positive here, Megan.
I think it might have been the Holy Spirit that coursed through her that brought her back.
I think it is
stubbornness.
It is Anne's stubborn determination. Her body willed her to live through all of this because it knew it was wronged.
So wronged. After her recovery,
her body's like, we gave birth.
We did.
We didn't
when
do
we
anything.
Thought we were just trying to take a poop.
We didn't do anything wrong, and then we got treated horribly.
Yep. Yeah. No, her spirit was like, oh, hell no, we're not going out like this.
Come back to the light.
Yep. After her recovery, she went to stay with friends in the country and got to take her coffin with her.
Because why, Charnell?
Because, and this was quoted on the original episode that we did of this, but it still stands true. I still want it on a t-shirt that says, I went to the gallows and all I got was this stupid coffin.
Amen.
Because Anne took her motherfucking coffin with her.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. Some people would be insulted. Well, here, what are we going to do with it? Take your coffin. I'm taking that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it as
do what with it?
Coffee table.
It is a conversation piece, Jason. Hey, you remember that time
Sometimes
that I
might
almost
sleep
died?
in it like this.
But then they just put leeches on my body, gave me an enema, and rubbed me with a bunch of ladies. I mean,
you walk into my house, my coffee table's open, I'm laying in it like this.
Megan just naps in her coffin.
How do you know I don't anyway?
So I
with
guess,
a cat.
the answer to the question is answered. They didn't execute her a second time.
Well, hold on.
We're not done yet.
The efforts of Petty and Willis, that's Dr. Petty and Dr. Willis, who stood around with all these grand plans, they paid off. She was revived, and in a short time.
I bet they made a medical journal. I bet they were real popular for a while because of this.
Well, here's the thing. She was given the coffin as a souvenir after she, was allowed to go home. And she did actually return to the room where she was revived, and crowds came to see her, like through this whole revival process. Like they really.
This was porn. People watched this happen.
They did. And Petty and Willis saw this as an opportunity to raise some money, which was used to pay for Anne's food and lodging as well as her medical bill. So they did make a whole skeptical of her recovery while she laid there in the coffin, and they revived her and, kept her in good health and whatnot.
Real world 1650 starring Anne Green.
Yes. So they also, the doctors, just so you know, they didn't want all of this to be done for naught. And
I love that word. Say it again.
For naught. Yes. They did help Anne apply for a pardon as well. The doctors did, which I thought was really nice because, they didn't want to see all their hard work just go to waste.
I've half jokingly before said, if you survive your execution, making the legal argument, yes, you have, in fact, served your sentence.
Yeah, and if she was married, till death do you part. Honey, you don't have to choose him again.
Right. There was a period of death, but she came back. And the way to keep these things from happening is to word our death sentences with things like, shall be strangled to permanent death, right?
Permanent death.
Asphyxiated to permanent death.
Permanent death.
Yes.
Death in which you remain
by
in
firing
that state
squad until,
permanently.
right, correct. We need permanent death in there.
Okay. Now, the authorities do grant Green a reprieve from execution while she was recovered, and they do ultimately pardon her, believing that the hand of God had saved her, demonstrating her innocence. So
all you have to do is die for your crime, and if you don't die, then maybe you weren't guilty. This is a brilliant legal system.
Turns out, because God knows better, right? So
he truly, or she does.
Yeah, he brought that bitch back. So who are we to say that she was guilty?
In fact, I'd be a little worried to try to kill her again for the same crime at that point.
Yeah.
At that point in time, you're going to get smited from above.
All it took was alcohol, leeches, and enema, and some ladies rubbing her, and she came back full force. Don't forget the feather.
Don't forget the
feather. A tickle feather. Yeah.
Jason's still over here thinking this sounds like a Saturday night.
I
this
know.
Is a
it really
great
does.
plan.
Mm-hmm. So,
did you want to do an advanced directive,
I was going to say, what are you
Jason?
guys doing this weekend?
Medical durable power of attorney. It's going to be an interesting read.
I've got lots of feathers.
Apparently, I'm going to write your new will, your new advanced directives.
I'll bring the feathers. You bring the enema. Somebody's got to have leeches.
I don't have it. But surprisingly, I don't have any type of anal probing device. I probably can come up with a feather.
She's lying.
I am
She's
not.
lying because it's a general audience episode.
Bullshit.
Subscribe to Patreon to hear where she keeps them. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Go ahead. I got nothing.
I'm sorry.
Jason
I was told this was a general audience thing. I'm trying to behave
scooted
myself.
Me too.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. I'm the miscreant today.
Fine. Everything's
Okay.
fine.
So I want to tell you about a pamphleteer, which is the historical term for someone who creates and distributes pamphlets. Okay, they're unbound, all right? So they're inexpensive. They're just little booklets that are intended for wide circulation, which this pamphleteer is how we have any information about this entire historical situation, okay? In a pamphleteer, it did note that Sir Thomas Reed died 3 days after Anne's execution, so there was no prosecutor to object to her pardon. Another pamphleteer wrote that her recovery moved some of her enemies to wrath and indignation, insomuch that a great man amongst the rest moved to have her again carried to the place of execution, to be hanged up by the neck, contrary to all law, reason, and justice. But some honest soldiers then present seemed to be very much discontented, and so they intervened on Anne's behalf. So one pamphlet actually said they did try. Like, they did try to hang her again, but everyone was so moved by her story and was so like, no. She went to the gallows. We killed her. She did her sentence. It was met with
public outcry.
Yes. They intervened.
They were decent people.
There were. Turns out, probably the same people that were watching her first hanging for, with popcorn in their hands. But then they decided, this is where we draw the line.
There may have been
She's now innocent. She's been deemed by the law as innocent.
A lot of religious people may have been very concerned about some type of exacted revenge. Like, you don't kill the person that survives that.
Yep. So it is intriguing then to consider the exoneration of Anne with her social class and status as an unwed mother, especially when it's viewed with such high levels of suspicion. Green's survival of her hanging was not unprecedented, whereas her subsequent exoneration for the infanticide was. The law was clear that her sentence was to hang until dead, and it should not be assumed that the law had any predisposition to show tenderness to a woman who survived her hanging.
But not permanently dead.
Yeah.
I just said dead.
7 years after the hanging of Anne Green, Robert Plott wrote an account of another woman accused of infanticide, hanged and revived. Leslie explained that the difference in this case is that the young woman survived. She was not allowed to be exonerated. She was taken outside and hung again from the nearest tree until they were sure she was dead. That is typically what took place. So Anne being exonerated was the actual anomaly here.
I think what saved Anne was that she was dead enough that they actually transported her to the coroner. she was like on the table for medical examination.
She was in her coffin.
Yeah, well, almost. This other person, however, it doesn't sound like they took her for autopsy. They literally were like, "Oh, you still aren't dead yet? Take her back out."
No, they revived her.
They revived her.
It was the same situation.
But immediately took her back out.
They revived her and then went right to the nearest tree.
Well, apparently Anne got lucky.
Well,
if you can call what's happened to Anne lucky.
Right.
Yes. I think what the difference is the intervention of those two doctors.
Agreed.
That revived her and then saw a way to, like, people came and saw her like a miracle, right? And profited off her. But they didn't profit off her. They used that to feed her and as her medical bill.
They made her a human interest story.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So in the case of Anne, her innocence came as a result of the efforts of Dr. William Petty, who found a midwife that was willing to testify that Anne Green's baby, had been stillborn. In Dr. Petty's account, Anne Green was presented as an overworked servant girl who went into labor only 4 months after the conception of her child. The infant was not developed enough to survive, and so the death was not Anne's fault. If anything, it was the fault of her master for overworking her. In proving the innocence of Anne, Dr. Petty had another motive. Petty saw in Anne Green's resurrection an opportunity to bring attention and admiration both within and beyond Oxford to the extracurricular and largely marginalized activities of the Oxford Experimentalist Club, and at the same time to ease tensions between the largely royalist faculty and the influx of parliamentary sanctioned scholars who were in many cases sent to replace them. So there's some political tensions going on in Oxford, and also like he is for this experimentalist club, and like, look, this is what we experimented with: enemas, feathers, bloodletting, spirits, and women rubbing each other right back to health.
Yeah,
and
you're right,
worked.
Jason. They were using this as scientific research.
Mm-hmm. Anne became immortalized in the pamphlets called News from the Dead, which included 25 poems, some comparing Anne to mythological figures like Orpheus. This was
Back from the dead.
Mm-hmm, this was in part to counter the rebellious other people who, wanted her rehanged.
Rise of the Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So, in 1651, this was a better year for Anne. She married a man named John Taylor. Not much is known after that, except that she did have 3 children, and in a cruel twist of fate, she actually died in childbirth in 1665.
It's not even shocking.
No.
Because that's what happened to women then. She's lucky she didn't die when she didn't know she was pregnant, when she had her first son.
Yep.
How'd that arrangement set up? Mr. Taylor's like, so what's your story, sweetheart?
Yeah, they probably just,
He liked a wild...
You're not going to believe.
He liked a wild woman.
Mr. Taylor was like, so what about this coffin?
Right.
Like, why?
Yeah, he's like, why do you have a coffin?
Why do you have a coffin? She's like, hold on, sit there.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story.
Let me pour you a drink. This is going to be a long one.
You're never going to believe it.
He just, all he heard was premarital, she'll give it up. That's what he heard.
Well, he found out she was with 2 chicks at the same time, and he's like,
I'll
marry you.
Let's put a ring on that.
Right?
Yeah.
She can handle her liquor, and she likes the group stuff.
She knows how to party.
Put a ring on that.
That's right. Oh gosh. Okay. So, do you have a brain bath for us? So that, by the way, that was like a terrible ending to a story, but that's the end of the Anne Green case. And gosh, I just really hope that she's off doing some other amazing things right now that don't include
cleaning houses.
Yes, and dying and
child care.
Hung. Oh yeah.
Probably
or
not.
Birth, for that matter. Hopefully she's a man in this life.
Yes. I hope she's not this man.
Oh, do you have brain baths for us?
I do, but this is strange crime. It is not necessarily going to bathe you. Okay? So from the book Strange Crime by, I don't know who the hell wrote this.
Before you get to that, do you want me to tell you what the brain bath was on this original episode?
Yeah.
Because it was a good one.
I still think I want you to tell us.
Okay.
I think I want you to read it.
I will. Because it was a good one. This one started the brain bath of like all brain baths, essentially.
Then we need to hear it. That's why I just want to read this because it goes in place with it. And apparently, I think this is a conglomeration because there's no author. But if you look up Strange Crime, Oddball Crimes, Capers, Plots, Laws, and More, I love this book. It's Toronto's first botched hanging. A city isn't a city until it executes its first prisoner or comes close. In Old York, in 1798, Toronto was just a 5-year-old hamlet called York. The city was growing, and so was its crime rate. In October 1798, an unthinkable, heinous crime took place. An illiterate, I don't know why this matters, tailor, named John Sullivan and his friend, Michael Flannery, that's always the Irish, got rip-roaring drunk in one of the town's first taverns. Out of cash with their thirst not yet slaked, the two men conspired to fake a banknote for 3 shillings, which they used to buy more whiskey.
Sure.
The crime was quickly discovered. Flannery escaped and crossed the U.S. border to freedom. 'Cause America. Sullivan, however, was caught. In short order, Sullivan was tried, convicted, and sentenced by the unforgiving judge to pay with his life. For the alcohol, for the shillings.
Gosh.
Trouble was, the city did not yet have a hangman, and it wouldn't for another century. Nobody in town was eager to step up. Fortunately, a fellow inmate known as McKnight
Who was probably in there for serial killing.
offered to end Sullivan's reign of terror for a price. He wanted $100, which is about $1,400 today, and a pardon. The judge accepted the criminal inmate's offer.
Stop it.
Like, I'll do it.
Unfortunately,
he's releasing a killer
a prisoner
for someone who wrote a fake check.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, McKnight, don't you utter and publish checks in Toronto. Unfortunately,
This guy was sleeping with his wife. That's what was going on.
right? McKnight had no idea what he was doing, and 2 attempts to tighten the noose and hang Sullivan failed to achieve the desired result. The story goes that
It's almost like we shouldn't be killing people. I don't know.
The story goes that Sullivan's last words were something like this: McKnight, I hope to God you've got the rope all right this time. The 3rd time was in fact a charm.
Holy shit.
Yep. So there's a strange hangman's thing that happened.
Is.
I just want you to know,
Fucking Canadians.
this is 100 years later, and it's still the Queen's land, but in Canada, right? And this is still happening. So
I hope to God you've got the rope right this time.
McKnight.
Could you imagine? How is he even talking?
Shall we do a dramatic reenactment?
No, it's pretty much how I spent my pneumonia and laryngitis, I'm pretty sure.
Go back 3 episodes,
Right.
general audience, and you'll hear
That's
Charnell present to you with
sounding like
we call
Marge
her
Simpson.
voice the hangman's noose.
Like after they picked him off the floor the 2nd time, he's got to be like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Absolutely.
Get it right. Oh my God. Someone come in here and help this guy.
Tell this.
Let me do it
Show this asshole
Let
how
me
to
do
tie.
it myself.
For sure, I'll
That's me.
The
That's
rabbit
me.
goes around the tree and down the loop.
Give me the goddamn rope and let me do it myself. The rest of you get out of here. I just need to do it alone.
Yeah. No, I think I would be like that too. Oh my God.
What was the original brain bath
The
that
original
started
brain
all
bath.
brain baths?
Yes, this is like, I truly even wrote in the notes, like, I'm now going to be the brain bath queen. And this one did it. You guys, it'll all come screaming back to the people who have listened for a long time. Ohio woman accused of trying to steal a Christmas tree by hiding it in her vagina.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. Tell them how big the Christmas tree was, Charnell.
A Walmart store in Cincinnati faced one of the strangest shoplifting attempts in history.
Oh, never mind. It was Ohio.
A would-be thief lost consciousness while trying to insert a 7-foot plastic Christmas tree in her vaginal cavity. I saw you open your mouth. You want me to keep reading, or would you like to interject
I'll
now?
save my questions till the end.
You can insert your questions later.
Clearly, she wasn't doing
There's not room
mentally.
for any more insertion.
Also,
Nope, not with a 7-foot Christmas tree in there.
ask that woman what 6 inches looks like. That's the
Clearly,
woman
she
you want.
doesn't know. Like,
If she can't gauge that a 7-foot tall tree is not going to fit up there.
I feel like she also didn't understand biology. Was like, so this is really simple. I'm going to insert this into my vagina,
Well,
and it's just going to come up, and the top of the
someone-
tree will come out my mouth.
someone-
I'm going to wear this Christmas tree through my vagina.
somebody probably told her
Christmas
her
trees-
box was a bottomless pit, and she took them literally.
The
Is that a
Christmas
thing
tree.
men say to women?
Do you say
Not
that?
two women.
Oh, different preposition.
Wow.
About
women.
is a
I would never say that about a woman.
I just want to make a correction. She wasn't wearing the Christmas tree. It was wearing her.
It was. That's
Ew.
true. That is very true. According to the police report, 43-year-old Wanda Brown took a 7.5 slim Yuletide pine Christmas tree with her inside the store's restrooms with the intent of inserting it entirely in her body cavity to steal it. Unfortunately for her, The pain caused by the insertion was too great, and she lost consciousness before the end of the process. She was found lying bloodied and senseless on the floor in the middle of the restroom by other customers who immediately decided to call 911.
This poor woman.
No.
Yes.
I would have to think there's
Poor
mental
woman.
illness
Well, there's something.
going on
There's a
here.
mental
Yes.
deficiency going on where she's
yeah.
like, this should work.
Mental.
On top of the fact of
it wasn't
how
like
bad,
she was lacking evergreen
how bad
in her
did she
bloodstream.
think she needed that fake tree?
Well, it was probably for
she
the
was.
kids.
I don't think you understand how serious I get about Christmas.
I'm
Very festive.
I have like 14 Christmas trees.
I have
So-
4 full-size Christmas trees. Some of them are like 15 feet tall, but I have never attempted to put any of them in my prison pocket.
I was just gonna say I have 14 Christmas trees, none of which have ever went anywhere near
None
my
have ever been
vagina.
vaginally
Yes,
assaulted.
they shouldn't.
Thank you.
No, not intentionally.
Don't
I
ask
mean,
her about her other Christmas items.
I mean, I only have 2, and
You know, how do you want me to add this? Have you ever sodomized yourself with a Christmas tree?
no.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. I backed into one once. Anyway, so Miss Wanda Brown, so she was transported to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, where doctors considered her in critical but stable condition. So she did live through this. She suffered from severe lacerations, received over 375 stitches, and lost more than 2 liters of blood. She hasn't regained consciousness at the time of this writing of this article, but doctors expect her to do so within a few days. I don't know, guys. Haven't looked it up to see if this is satire or not, but I just had to. There it is. There it is. I mean, it's written. There are pictures. There are actual.
I don't think it's
pictures.
satire, unless. No, I think someone
that
would
could have
really
been
do
AI.
this.
Yeah. I mean, we could look it up now and see if it's satire, but
Leave it alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
yeah.
Oh,
She still
Christmas
faces
tree,
2
oh,
charges of larceny and
Christmas
indecent
tree.
exposure. Her lawyer has demanded a psychiatric evaluation to determine if she's fit to stand
think?
trial.
Good call.
So, yeah, I mean, this was 2021, but I haven't looked up.
Hey,
Guys,
I
those
don't
are
think
rough
it's
times.
satire.
Those are
This-
rough times.
Literally.
It really was. This was 2021, and the trial was, or excuse me, you know, between all the psychiatric evaluations and all that, it was going to take some months into the next year, of course, before they could determine if she was fit to stand trial, which I'm guessing is a
I think
highly
she's fit to
unlikelihood.
do anything anymore.
Well, no,
Like,
not with 375 stitches all up in there.
even
but
prior to that, she shouldn't be wandering the streets alone.
no, I don't think maybe she should have. Her handler may
I mean,
have.
it's also Cincinnati.
I hope
if
they
you
got
remember
rid of the
that.
Christmas tree.
It's
That's-
It's Walmart. They reboxed that
and they
and then
put
discounted
they
for a couple
discounted
bucks.
it because it had a
Sorry, the box was opened.
The box,
The box
was
is damaged.
Yes, the box was damaged.
Shut up, bum. I think
Oh,
You don't know which one is
you don't
the
know where
right-
the rim shot is.
Nope. Right
there
there.
you go. We
You
got to
get
label those.
rim shot.
Yeah. I think
Give me a
we've
Give me a Sharpie.
I think we've
I'm
done
gonna
our
label those.
damage today
I think we
Yeah.
have.
with the
I need a
box
break.
with the box comment.
Lots of damage has happened. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this episode that is, more old timey. We're not usually this off the rails with. Well,
General
actually, technically,
audience?
no one died.
No.
I
I mean, Anne did, but
oh, of
in
course. So she was
childbirth
going
later
to.
in life.
Right. I mean, it was the 1600s. She certainly wasn't going to still be around while we're talking about her
No,
today.
she wasn't
so.
living past 40 anyway.
Yeah, no, not in those times for sure. All right. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. We hope that you keep it curious.
Until next time.
No.
Oh,
God damn
Megan
it.
dropped
did
the
it.
ball.
Oh, it's because she's been off.
She-
That's why. All right. We hope that you keep it curious.
And keep listening.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Was that so fucking hard?
Suck.
Come on.